Hello, Sharon, and all that sort of thing. Welcome back to our Unwritten walkthroughs, our Tuesday walkthroughs, where we walk through the games and we talk about how things can apply to the Unwritten role-playing game. My name is Veronica Hamilton. I'm the primary developer um, of Unwritten, the Unwritten RPG, so curator on the Cyan lore team. And this is a lot more laid back than our monthly Strange Seas games. Hey, Parker. I see it's Shara Bashem. Bashem. I was gonna say Shara Bashem to you, but I already just said that. It's like saying ATM machine. But we had just finished Riven on our last episode. Um, and so, of course, next game is Mist 3 Exile. However, I will not be streaming next week, next Tuesday on the 28th, because I hopefully am going to be enjoying a well-earned vacation on the Oregon coast with my lovely wife and our son. And so I didn't want to start. Oh, hi, Tora. This is kind of a weird one, but so I didn't want to go ahead and start Exile yet, and then start Exile and then have a week off and then come back to it. Partially because I thought that would interrupt all the flow of things, and partially is that I actually really like Exile. It's one of my favorites for various reasons I'll go into then. So I just kind of wanted to have a bit more cohesive thing. So I decided that surprise, we're going to be doing something else, and I'm actually going to be doing a non-mist game that I have been playing. Um, and we'll see what you guys think of it. I still will do the discussion on how it applies to Unwritten and how it applies to gaming. Um, but I thought this might be kind of a nice little palate cleanser before we get to Exile. Plus, it's the other game that I've been playing like crazy lately, so why not give me a chance to play that too. I'm sure that you are all wondering what it is. And so, here we go. No Man's Sky by Hello Games. Um, so No Man's Sky is a science fiction, science fantasy game. Um, and it's made by Hello Games, and it's designed initially to be a game about exploration. Um, explorations from planet to planet, that sort of thing. It's all the planets are generated procedurally. Oh, Parker, you've been playing it a lot as well. Great. Um, so right here we can see this is the initialization such. So as I'm talking, uh, the startup stuff will happen. This is a brand new game. Okay, let me get the sound working here. See, I find this a particularly interesting game because it is one about exploration, um, but it's a very different sort of style of game. And yet, being the sort of person that I am, I look at this and I think, you know, how would this sort of thing work? How does this attach to Myst? And how does it attach to role-playing games? Because I'm that sort of geek. We start up here. This is pretty much all we know. So it's a very sort of familiar Myst thing. Um, okay, you can see I'm on this planet, Ibush 1202, which is a procedurally generated name for this procedurally generated planet. Um, you can see that in the lower left, I've got, the name. It's a very radioactive planet, so it says 5.8 rads. Um, And I have a life support bar and a health protection bar, a hazard protection bar. Yeah, this is very much like Parker has mentioned. I'm just gonna dive into this cave real quick because it's more protective, and if nothing else, you know, as fans of the Myst series, we love caves. But yeah, you start off with this, and that's it. And you get a little bit of tutorial that walks you through, but it's very very similar to the Myst start. You don't know anything. Your character doesn't know anything. You're just here. Um, and as you can see, I'm on this alien landscape. We've got some critters walking around. We've got strange plants of various sorts. You can see that I look at some of these things, and these are unidentified minerals. You know, unidentified plants. So once again, we're in a sort of cold open in media res, which is just like Myst. No Man's Sky is a exploration and survival game in the sense that you're kind of dropped into it, and then part of what you have to do is you have to figure things out and figure out how to survive on in this environment before you can get onto sort of the exploration side of things. Um, and survival is something that works really well with Unwritten because it is a source of conflict and challenge that isn't violent, and that's kind of a big thing for Unwritten. Uh, so you see, it says exosuit initialization in progress. Use the scanner to locate resources. Select scanner repair mission in the log. So we'll go up here. We see our log. We select repair scanner mission. And at least this gives us some walkthrough here. It says scanner data, scanner status damage critical. Recommendation: repair scanner to locate survival resources. I'm playing, obviously I have played this before, so I kind of know the basics. So I immediately ran for cover. That way I could talk without immediately dying, because I figured that'd be a downer. Um, but yeah, I mean, here we are in an environment, and we have to figure out what to do. If this were an unwritten scene, I would you could describe the environment and that sort of thing. I might, describe, hey, you're in a radioactive area. Your suit seems to be handling radioactivity mostly, but you probably need to find some place with less radioactivity. You may want to look for cover, and then we can begin things. So let's go ahead and so we need the scanner, and to get the scanner, we need to collect materials from the area. Gather ferrite dust, which comes from small rocks. Now we look at these things here in this cave. Caves in No Man's Sky usually have cobalt in them. We don't need cobalt. We need other stuff. So we have to venture out. And, that has ferrite dust in it. We use our nifty little mining laser, which allows us to shoot things and suck up resources. There we go. And we get some stuff to get. Now, so this is a little bit of, gaming grind here, which is good for a video game, not very good for a role-playing game. There are a number of different ways in Unwritten you could model this. You definitely wouldn't want to have something along the lines of, you need this much, you need, 75 units of ferrite dust, and that means we want to, you're gonna have to make some rolls to collect their ferrite dust. You don't want to do that. It's boring. What you do want to do is to explain the challenge. It's like, you are, while you as a character would start off with without any information about who you are, you definitely have some assumptions. You've got, you would know that you have a tech suit. You have the tools to extract information, extract minerals from the. Let's go ahead and figure out how you're going to survive. Uh, we are getting, a very specific walkthrough here. It's like, okay, you need to turn your scanner on. Okay, my scanner. This is my multi-tool. This is my nifty little tool that does all the things. This would be a great aspect in Unwritten. Um, and or it could, if you have some specific things you want to do, like they're mechanical, it could be a stunt or it could be both. Um, but this one is broken, and so we use the ferrite dice and we fix it. Okay, now I need to find some sodium in the environment. Sodium because I have my little hazard protection shield, and it runs out of fuel. You can see it's going down there slowly as I am in the open and being exposed to radiation. And sodium can be used to recharge my shield. And I see, and what you can do is you can hit C, put that little scanner thing, and you get little. There's hydrogen. There's sodium, a sodium-rich plant. Now there's something over there. There's more sodium over there, and over there. Oxygen. So, yeah. So I'm gonna go get some sodium here. I need 10 sodium units. That plant gave me 13. And it says, go ahead and recharge your thing here. I'm gonna go through there. It says, it shows me other things I can recharge it with, which I don't have. Sodium nitrite, ion batteries, that sort of thing. Woohoo! Now I have a way of protecting myself. From a role-playing perspective, like, some sort, you could have that as just a single role. It's like, I need to, I'm here. I have to figure out how I'm going to protect myself. Roll survival. Sort of things. And the players can kind of come up with stuff. Or, you can sit down and go, okay, well, how do you plan to do this? What do you think it needs? That sort of thing. So, I'm also going to collect other materials while I'm out here, because that's the name of the game. See, we got our dehydrogen here, crystals, and then we've got our unidentified minerals, which have ferrite, so I'm just gonna suck them up here with my little vacuum cleaner. Now, one of the nice things about No Man's Sky is this entire environment here is programmatically, procedurally generated. So there's like, one, like, there's like a key, set of characters or string that is used to generate this entire planet. And so, I mean, in a way, you can think of this planet as an age. And so we're exploring we're caught in our first age here, and we're exploring. Here's this little beastie here, who I don't know anything about yet, but if I had food pellets, I could talk to him. I could feed them to him. I've got, minerals I don't know about. This interesting bit of flora here. Wouldn't look too far out of place in Edgarra, or at Chemo. But right now, I need to find my ship, which is right there. So I'm gonna go this way. So while I am wandering over to my ship, so how is everybody doing? Parker, you said that you've played this. Tora, you said you haven't. So, here. See, this is a great thing you can do here. That's visually easy to do in a video game, but sometimes harder to do in a roll-top playing game. Is that whole sort of reveal of the vista? Like, that's kind of like your flyover from Mist. Parker, you're checking up on your settlement in game now. Great. Um, I know I'm not in multiplayer mode, but we can probably set it up at some point. Um, One of the nice things about for those you haven't played No Man's Sky is that you can do it in multiplayer, and you can visit the planets that each you discover. I am the first person on this planet, first player. Um, it was discovered today by me. No other player has ever gone to this planet, and that's the power of the procedurally generated environment. Is that you can have that, and you can have you know millions of different environments that you can be the first person to be at, the first person to explore. This is the star system I'm in. It is 5 planets, and I am the first player to ever be in this star system. So this really kind of gives that idea of hey, I'm going to new places. Um, and you see, especially if you're brand new to the game, you see lots of strange things, like this thing, which see, that's a hazardous plant. Um, see, most of the hazardous plants look kind of the same in the game, no matter what planet you're on. So this is a gassy pod, and so I want to stay away from that. Some more, this is a plant, sort of coral-looking thing. Now, and you could describe this in loving detail in a role-playing game. Um, or you could just list off like, hey, so you're on this place, it's a sort of hilly plain, the radiation is high, there are these short little basalt-like protrusions all over, there are blue crystals on the ground, you have this sort of weird-looking beastie here, 4-legged, 2 tails, horns, who just seems to be grazing. Doesn't seem to be, seems to be okay. Doesn't seem to be paying much attention to you. I'm gonna pick up a little more sodium from our yellow sodium plants that I have around here, so that I can recharge my protection. I'm gonna keep heading towards it. And we can see it's at night. We've got the sky. Yeah. Glowing plants, important part of any sort of thing is that you have cool glowy plants. So I mean, there's a lot of ideas here that you could use for an age. And I always thought that if there was something like this for Myst, some sort of procedurally generated environment that could be ages. I mean, there are problems with procedurally generated environment. After a while, everything's slightly different, but very often you'll see some things that you'll see repeats over and over again. This is not the only place you'll see this plant, for instance. It'll be a different plant on different planets, but it's the same resource or such. Procedural generated can only have so many options, but it would be kind of cool just to have go into your Nexus, open click a button that give me a random book, pop it open. Hey Junie, I'm trying something a little different. I'm doing No Man's Sky, which I think I mentioned in the last stream. I'm just kind of showing some things around. Okay, here we are once again to some story. A distress beacon. Scenario, iterations 23118766IT. Deleted. Boundary separation failure likely. Vessel 16 emptied. Cause sentinel intervention. Deliberate transfer. Analysis. Fresh iteration generated. Anomaly containment prepared. Broadcast or leave. So I'm going to go ahead and broadcast. Broadcast received. Traveler anomaly detected. Anomaly is compliant. Position log. System integrity scan initialized. Now imagine role-playing that's you're in this environment and you're kind of stumbling around. You find that. That's like, right there you've got, a dozen different hooks. I mean, this is a whole of, how did I get here and what the heck is going on? But then you've got all these things here which seem like they would make sense to somebody who knew what was going on. But as a player and as a character, you don't. So, okay, so I'm jumping in the ship that I found here. There's another iteration number. So once again, iteration is somehow important. Online. Atlas connection. Atlas, is that a network? Is that a, what is that? Intermittent. Launch thrusters offline. Well, that's not good. I mean, it's kind of sparking and everything, so it can't be that good. Pulse engine offline. Oh well. I find myself alone on a strange world, unequipped and in danger. I have no memory how I got here, no sense of a before. But this ship at least seems to recognize me. The controls react to my touch, or at least to that of my exosuit. I am not dead yet, and this ship is a lifeline out to the stars. So let's read the log. Log, blah blah blah, unavailable, substituting data. Exosuit connected, suggestion, pilot perform maintenance. Select desired repair path. Let's repair the ship. Self-regarded protocols initiated. Pulse engine critically damaged. And this, of course, tells you, since this is a game about collecting resources to survive, it's just like, okay, to fix it, we need this, we need a hermetic seal, we need metal plating. Okay, launch thruster critically damaged, press E to exit. Nice thing about this game is every time you exit your ship, it does a save point. So, okay. Supposed to do my repairs here. Repairing the Starship requires a mix of crafted products, salvaged items, and advanced refined substances. And once again, it's walking through here. Like I said, having this sort of walkthrough you could have a player, players find, rules, could find, some sort of instructions somewhere. You could have them roll, versus, an engineering skill or something, and go, hey, from your engineering knowledge, it looks like, you need, the engine looks kind of borked, and you're going to need some, some more materials, maybe some metal plating, maybe a seal here and there. Fortunately, you're going to need to go out there and construct it. So, yeah, so you can see that there's a lot of, these are different ways to explain and experience the same events. This is very procedural in terms of the video game. Video games are good at procedural. But on the narrative side, you can walk through this whole thing. Excuse me while I get a drink there. Okie doke. So we need to repair the pulse engine. We need metal plating. Hey, it tells us, we don't have enough ferrite dust to make a metal plate. We need 50, we have 47. Another interesting thing here is the idea that, when your players, oh, there's an interesting critter. Check that out. So Joni asks, oh, check that out. Hey, how's it going? Just, your average gigantic, mantis-like insect running around the age. Not too familiar with humans, obviously, because it just came right up to us. Or assuming we are human. Junie asks, if you were doing this as an RPG, would you tell them all the things that need to be repaired at one time? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on, oh hey, he's a little friendly. I don't have anything to make food pellets with. I don't even know how to make food pellets yet. So, can't really, adopt him as a pet. I'll name him Henry for now, though. Hi, Henry. Henry the Mantis. Um, I mean, you could do either. You could say, there's a bunch of stuff that needs repairing here. It's this and this and this and this. And you could have sort of a list of, you could have a list of things that, you need to collect. The thing with a list like that you have to be careful about in a role-playing game is, once again, you want to make it all interesting. So it's just like, it's not just you want to give them like, a grocery list and say, okay, where are you going to get this stuff? And then the people are going to sit around and say, oh, well, I don't know where. The idea is to have, the things that you're having them give, you're having them gather. You want to have an idea of things that they can do that are interesting to get them. Once again, in a video game, it's, video games handle the whole sort of, I think I'll interact with the environment, and it does something. But in a role-playing game, you'll want to have some sort of interesting procedure. And sometimes it's, you have an idea of like, well, okay, you're going to need, a bunch of, raw materials. That means that, well, where am I going to get those in the D? Well, I'm not going to get those in the D. I'm going to get those in, I could probably get them on the surface. And then there's the question of, yeah, and Parker makes a really good comment here in the chat, that you could also meter out objectives with the idea that fixing things reveals more problems. That's another good thing too. You want to be careful about that, is that you don't want to exhaust people, because there's that whole sense of, okay, well, oh, and there's another problem. Oh, we got it. There's another problem. But you could do it either way. If you want to have, sort of a nice sort of string of events, saying, hey, there's a lot going on with this engine. We don't know exactly, but we can definitely see this is broken, and you won't be able to really kind of see if the rest is working until you fix this. It's like, oh, well, how do I get the pulse engine fixed, etc. Or you could say, well, you looked at this and the pulse engine's broken and the launch thrusters are broken, and the shields are working, but that doesn't really matter if you can't get it off the ground. The idea here is, though, is when you require something, requiring the players to get something to continue is great, because it gives them something to overcome. Just you want to make sure that it is something that is interesting for them to do, not just something they could check off. Well, I need to go to the store and get this. If they, I need something, but I can only get on the surface, then the question becomes, how are they getting to the surface? What's waiting on the surface? Do they have friends up there that want to find out, where they've been? Do they run afoul of something? Are they, have they gone up to the surface to Carlsbad, and Eddie, New Mexico, to get some things, and they're actually, not an American citizen, and they've gotten to Denise through some other way, and then something happens where someone finds out they're not an American citizen, and there's like, well, then how did is there some do they run into an overzealous ICE agent? Do they not have it? Do they only have Deutschmarks and no dollars, or anything like that? These are all, the idea is that in Myst, the puzzles are what keeps you from moving on, so that you have something to overcome till you get to the next part of the story. And a tabletop role-playing game, you want them to have interesting challenges to interact with to move on as well. And that can be a lot of different things. Okay, I made my metal plate. Okay. Oh, and I need to go to my Starship. My pulse engine needs a metal plate. That's kind of a great background there Things are not going well. Okay. Thank you, computer. I have repaired it. Hey, iteration. Once again, you know, iteration is somehow important here. Whatever that term actually means. Okay, I need a hermetic seal. What's this? Sure not. There's a hermetic seal nearby. Salvage planetary chart from distress beacon cache. So, I need a hermetic seal. Okay, it says, well, I need to go over to my beacon here to get some information about how I get my hermetic seal. I peer inside the beacon's housing, as well as its stress broadcast unit. It contains a planetary chart. Okay, planetary chart. Okay, so I have my inventory here, planetary chart. And so I will activate the planetary chart. Hopefully, it will lead me to a hermetic seal. Excuse me. I got a little bit of a cough, so I apologize if sometimes the audio gets weird. I'm trying to avoid coughing in your ear. And no, it's not COVID. I've already had a test, so I'm good. But okay, so the map says there's stuff over here. So once again, we have a problem. I need a hermetic seal, and it could be easy, just like, well, you can whip one up because you're an engineer, or it could be, hey, maybe you can't whip one up. But you find some information that leads you to where you could find one. One problem, solving one problem, leads to another activity. I see Torah. If they have to wait for a resource, they need other things to do while waiting. Made that mistake and my players figured out a puzzle while waiting on their instruction manual to be translated. Once again, no idea ever survives contact with your players. So the fact that they figured out they skipped your puzzle, or they figured out the puzzle and they sort of got around the puzzle that you had in mind, and that's fine. It may be a little frustrating, especially if you spend a long time. Uh-oh. Warning, radioactive supercell approaching. That's a storm. So I'm going to try to quickly go this direction and see if I can get through without being hit too bad by the storm. Oh, hey dude, how's it going? Luckily, there's some salt up here. I've done a scan, found some salt, and that will help me recharge my scanner. Yeah, Tora, you're right. It's probably more satisfying that way. Okay, and this brings something really great. Actually, I saw someone, Ellery pointed out this tweet to me from earlier today. Someone talking about how that if your players will be more invested in a story beat if that story beat came from them. And I think that's really important. Your players are going to come up with more ideas than you can because there's more of them than you, no matter how good you are. Oh boy, it's way over there. I'm going to need a lot of stuff to help me out here. Luckily, my hazard shield isn't too bad there in the lower right, you see? It isn't all the way down, so I'm going to keep running. Oh, lightning. Here's a place where you can start placing aspects on your scene. Radiation storm, thunder and lightning, and then you can start using those to compel problems for your players. Instead of just having you can do something like I'm keeping track of how much radiation protection they have, and every time you can do something like every action or so, or every couple minutes, you take 1 point off, and then, if that provides a time pressure, that's one way to do it. You can also just, fall back on the rules of drama and, start doing compels off of aspects like, on rushing storm or such, to, help you out. And just say, oh, well, looks like, there's a split in your suit. What are you going to do? And that's always kind of the thing you do is you give the players a situation and you ask them, what are they going to do? Oh, check out uranium. Probably not the best thing to stand by. But. Now, also here's the idea of that, you're running through this environment and the players might go, hey, this is obviously not the first time anyone has been in this planet. Maybe there's some shelter nearby. And you can go as a GM, that's a really great idea. Let's go ahead and do that. Say it, check, oh, there does happen to be some shelter. Or you could ask them to spin a fate point and say, hey, that is a good idea. If you spin a fate point, you'll find some shelter nearby. Once again, it's an idea they came up with, and so it will mean more to them in the long run, even if they're hoping to be surprised by things, because they're involved. And really, that's oh good, I'm in here and my radiation protection is recharging. Looks like someone else has been here in the past, but probably hasn't been here for a while. Things are not well kept. This is the point where I would tap on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. Wonder what that is. But yeah. Okie doke. Let's look in this other one here. Oh, that's where the indicator went. And they've got a little holo archive over here. Accessing archive, 67 logs corrupted. Entry 4924A follows. No one making this recording, leaving behind in Fabricator might be of some use. Visor damage, can't find ship. Well, let's recover the supplies. And there's your hermetic seal. Little side quest. It was interesting. Dealt with some sort of challenge, like the storm, which I dealt with in this case by getting materials to charge my shield, and you get a resolution. Whoever let it here, whoever left this message, perhaps they found themselves in this situation as I do now. Your players may say something like this in a similar situation, or you may even just kind of drop the hint. Why would the exact thing I need be so close by, right when I need it? That sort of thing tells them something about what's going on as well. Okay, use my analysis visor to. Oh, my analysis visor is broken. Okay, so I need to fix that. Okay. Go to inventory. This is my tool. The slot's in my tool. I want to put in the analysis visor. And to put that in, I need carbon nanotubes. I need to gather carbon. Carbon comes from plants. So I need to find some good plants to draw stuff from. Those look sort of plant-like. Slurp, 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 slurp. Also, a side thing here. Obviously the mining beam here is, sci-fi magic for, look, I shoot it and it gives me stuff. But I think there's an important thing here for a gamer too, is that you could say, how would I get this from a plant? The carbon from a plant. Well, okay, to make carbon nanotubes, you're going to need a lab, and we're going to need, this stuff, and, we're going to have to, or you can just say, the important thing is that you get the carbon from it. And that's fine. You can hand wave over that and move on with the story. If your players don't want to, that's fine. You can play with it a bit, but they still might want, just because I like, and especially if you have like one player who's really into it, but all the other players are definitely not, you can go, don't worry, your character would know. Okay, you got it. Fast forward. One thing, that's the great thing about role-playing games is time is pretty flexible. Okay, so let's make our carnage nanotube. Okay, and then we go to our multi-tool, add our nanotube, and ta-da! Now, analyze objects for rewards. It always sounds like fun. I like rewards. Okay, we have our analysis visor here, which, we can look at, oh, those are those little stubby rock things that we've seen everywhere. Let's scan it. Oh, that's Anguabite. It's got ferrite dust and sodium. Oh, check this out. So here's one of those little critters. I can take a look at it and scan it. That's Y. I assume that's some sort of like genus. Y musicinum. That's an adult. The gender is asymmetric, whatever that means. It's a fidgety thing. It eats gamma weed, height, weight, redundant internal organs. You may not care about any of that. Your players may not care about any of that. But yeah, those are all ideas. One of the fun things about No Man's Sky is that when you find something, when you're the first to find it, whether it be a creature or a plant or a planet or a star system, you get to name it. So what are those? What does that look like? Sort of camelish with the hump there. It's sort of a radioactive gamma camel. Why not? So this now is forever a gamma camel. And it only exists on this planet. But if someone comes to this planet and scans it, and other players can, in theory, come to this planet, they're going to see a gamma camel. Tor asks, does No Man's Sky ever procedurally generate a world someone else has previously been on and named? It does not procedurally generate it in the sense that, it adds a new, it makes up a person and a name. It makes up names procedurally, but doesn't make up a discovered thing. But you will come in, you can come into systems where you'll find that, the system or the planets or the creatures have already been named. And at least one game I played, I actually ended up starting for some reason, on a planet someone else had found. But they had just been passing through, so they hadn't done anything else. They hadn't named anything or anything like that. They'd just gone through the system, looking for new places to explore, and decided it wasn't interesting, and then moved on. And the thing is, it could be that it could have been that I started the game but hadn't gotten around to naming it. So someone came through and named it. I don't know how that works exactly, but yeah. And you see that over here, it's got a list of all the different species that I might find. It's a video game. You can't have too many, but but you can see all the details here. You can see your minerals, nobly listed here, and when I scan some flora. Other things you can see, type of weather. Sentinels is a type of robot thingy that get in your way. These indicate things about the system. This is an inhabited system, inhabited by Korvax, which are a type of sentient robots. There's a lot of conflict going on between so it's like a lot of pirates and that sort of thing. And there's an economy here that's based around metal processing, and it's destitute. It's not doing well. Any of these can be aspects, and any of these things could be things that you hang a story on. No Man's Sky is really good for, tossing hooks around. And Doesn't necessarily do much with all of them, but it does give you things that you could, inspirations. Um, okay, so I'm supposed to go back to my starship and continue. I'm going to take a side thing here. I'm going to look around a little bit because not that one. I'll try over here. Players always want to take a look around, and they always want to go off and do their own stuff. And you saw that in the Strange Seed games where people are just like, oh, cool, let's interact with this. Let's figure this out. Let's figure that out. I really like the caves in No Man's Sky. I like caves. Big surprise. Denis fan. Love caves. And I really think that the caves in No Man's Sky are really pretty. Okay, so we've got here's a little plant here. Let's take a look at it. A little plant here, and it's got carbon and radon. A little glowy flower. Tried something called a marrow bulb. Nutrient sorts, electron donors, whatever that means. Root sort, no. These things are just hazardous flora. They're just little pulsy things. And they don't you can't actually even scan them. But they hurt you. So you can get rid of them by essentially mining them for some sort of their materials. Oh! Ran out of charge on my weapon, and I need to recharge it. My beam is recharged with carbon, which I've been collecting. There we go. In a game like Unwritten, once again, video game, procedural, you can easily keeps track of how much of what you got. You usually don't want to be that fiddly in a role-playing game, unless those details are really important. If they're in an environment where you just, they only had five things of, of supplies for 10 people. How are you going to divide it up? But most of the time, for a game like Unwritten, you once again, you fall back on the rules of drama. Your your gun jams, your tools jam when it becomes dramatically interesting. So very rarely are they going to jam when you're just doing stuff, but when in the middle of a crisis, that's when they jam, and that's more interesting than just like, oh, you're playing around and jammed. Like, oh, I used 5 and now I'm out. That's not interesting at all. Okay. This is another thing. That's carbon. Need to make probably cobalt. You can also, the scanner reveals other things. These little icons of things, and these little red things moving around are creatures. The red dots mean you haven't scanned them yet, so you don't know anything about them. And there's these little icons, like there's a uranium deposit, which we passed earlier. Over there is a copper deposit. Over there is a knowledge stone. Let's go there, actually, because that's interesting stuff. We may not get to otherwise if we just follow the tutorial directly. So, and you can see I'm running in first-person mode here. You can run in a third-person mode. And I think I can actually adjust it here. Yep, that's me. In my exosuit, in my all-purpose exo suit pack there, which has everything and holds all my stuff. Sort of a it's sort of a bag of holding. Sometimes your characters will have that sort of thing. But okay, here's a knowledge stone. You'll find these just peppered around planets, just kind of floating around. This one's the wisdom of the Korvax. Bokhudum, 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 Yun Yun Yun. The stone resonates, produces a sound that fills my mind. A vision begins to take shape. A robotic life form turns towards me. Light streams from their metal shell, forming a glowing fog that surrounds us both. They gesture towards me. Let's accept the knowledge. The name Korvax floats in my vision, an echo of the strange vision I just experienced. A word in this alien tongue is seared into my brain. So I've learned the Korvax word for Korvax. There are a couple different species/civilizations of aliens. Each has their own language, and you learn words from their language as you go along. Like that thing that was all sort of gibberish when I read before. Each one of those gibberish words corresponds to an English word. And as I learn things, when I encounter those, the English words will the gibberish words will be replaced with an English word. That's an interesting mechanic, is that it sort of shows you slowly learning the language in a number of different situations, which I think is kind of fun, especially since I'm a language person, and Dini has a lot of stuff that involves the Dini language, and probably Rivenese and Narayani and all those sorts of things. So if you've noticed if you've ever seen me run a couple of my games for Unwritten, you'll notice that several times the characters have encountered native populations who don't speak their language. And I'll usually rattle off some sort of nonce words and that sort of thing to do with, but that's an important thing to think about. Hey, dude. Oh, it's another one. Oh, didn't like me. That's an important thing to think about in this sort of game, is that when you're going to new ages, where there are civilizations, realistically speaking, they're not going to speak the same language as you. I mean, you'll be lucky if they manage to know Dini as well, because if the Dini have been there, and they may not have been. That's an important part of, I think, the exploration, is that sense that as well as finding common cause and having kind of that first contact situation. Part of that is the fact that you don't share a language. You can't discuss things easily. And I think that that comes up in Unwritten and in Myst games because I mean they've clearly pointed out the Dini language. So it's an element. You don't necessarily have to do that for your game. You can hand wave it in a lot of ways. You have a player that you can have a character who's a linguist, so you can figure out languages relatively quickly. You could posit some sort of guidebook, some Guild of Linguists cool attachment to the key that figures out that sort of thing. I mean, go as far as you like. It's really, the question is, how much do you want the barrier of language to appear in your game? Some games, there being the barrier of language makes a lot of sense. In some games, you may be wanting to be doing other things entirely. So it may be, it doesn't, it's not something you want to deal with. You can figure out different ways around that. Once again, it depends on what you focus on, how much time you spend on it, and how much detail you want to spend on it. Sodium nitrite crystals, which I cannot harvest because I do not have an advanced mining laser. Well. Okay, let's go a little bit more through the tutorial, and you can see more things. So, as I'm doing that, what are you guys thinking of the game so far? I know, Parker, you played it. I mean, Tora, what does it look? How do you think it looks? Looks it interesting so far? Or Junie? Okay. Now you need to repair the pulse engine. Oh, I need to put the hermetic seal in it since I got it. The pulse engine is but the launch thrusters are critically damaged. I'm going to need some pure ferrite and some dihydrogen jelly. But no peanut butter. Alright. How far can, Judy, how far can I travel? This planet, I mean, the planets are pretty big. I don't know exactly how big. Yeah, we don't know if this is a he or she or they. I mean, we have no information about the character. I mean, not even really I mean, we know they have a humanoid shape. Later on in the game, you can get to places where you can more customize your appearance. And they allow you to take, shapes and, heads that are, in, from the different species that you find, the different civilizations, but you never actually see a human face. It's either one of those species or it's a couple of other weird alien sort of things, or the helmet. So much like the stranger, you are a blank slate. Yeah, Tora. Yeah, we're going through the instruction through the tutorial stuff. So there hasn't been a huge amount of stuff there, but it's kind of slowly taking us through some of the things that we often do. Which is, as a survival game, we're collecting materials from environments so that we can repair things and we can continue. Okay. We need to make dihydrogen jelly. I'd already picked up dihydrogen from the crystals, so I can... Dihydrogen takes 40, so I'll just make it. And now we have a little glob of dihydrogen jelly. Let's put that in there, little thrusters, a little dab will do ya. Okay, now I need pure ferrite. I don't have pure ferrite. I have ferrite dust. But the tutorial tells me that I can, refine simple materials into advanced materials using a portable refiner. But I need the materials to do that. So I need to gather some ferrite dust for the portable refiner and some other things. So it means I need to shoot more rocks for the moment. Oh, that's it. You can actually shoot things from relatively far away, too, so... Okay. And now I need to create my metal plating. And now I need to gather some oxygen for the portable refiner. From my scanner here, you can see that these are oxygen-rich plants. Conveniently placed in the tutorial. Slurp, slurp, slurp. Okay. Okay, and now I can build a portable refiner. Because I've got the materials. Alright, here's my refiner. I need to give it some fuel. So it's like an adult... Judy says it's like an adult version of Stardew Valley. You need to harvest and build and combine. Yes, very much. See. There he says when you get to the avatar, you do customizations. Your species is labeled as anomaly. Yep. I like to think that the players that have the space helmet heads could actually be tiny beings piloting a robot body. Yeah, I am just actually 3 squeeze in a very overcomplicated trench coat. That's all I am. So we're gonna turn some of the ferrite into ferrite dust, which is really quick because I don't have much. But that is not enough ferrite, so I'm gonna need to go get some more ferrite. Wonder now if I can, like, change my name somewhere to 3 squeeze in a trench coat. It's the perfect plan, exactly. Uh-oh. I think I made him angry. Henry. I'm sorry, Henry. Didn't mean to hit you. Okay. He just kind of weirded out. I would be too if someone shot a laser at me. Of course, in Uru, we're kind of used to, like, little beams of light going everywhere anyways. Okay. So I've gotten my ferrite dust. I think the thing that about No Man's Sky that's important, especially from the explorer's perspective, is, you know, like Stardew Valley, you gather things, you combine, you harvest, you combine, and that allows you to do more things. Um, you know, there are larger refiners, which allows you to combine multiple materials into one. There are different recipes, um, and there are you know, different things later on you can actually do more like larger scale gathering materials. You can actually raise crops. You can build bases. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff here. And I kind of like that about the world, is that, you know, it's a sandbox, and there's just, you know, like Denis, there are so many things you can do. Okay. Ah, there's another beastie. Try to scan it. Okay, I haven't scanned Henry over here. Mature, enjoys the hunt. Flesh eater. Oh, maybe I shouldn't be pissing Henry off. Oh, and there are things that you kind of find around that you can, you know, in the tradition of the adventure game player, that you can just loot for your own purposes. You rifle through things, stuff. You have to get this. Sorry, I did that one too fast. On these damaged containers, you have to remove the damaged stuff, which means putting it into your inventory, which is limited, and then you can open it. So you end up with a lot of extra stuff in your inventory, just kind of junking it up. That's part of the survival game mechanics, is that, you know, you only have a limited amount of space you can carry things, and so what you carry things and what you do with them are important. This machinery gave me nanites, which is a type of currency. Okay, let's repair the launch thruster. Okie doke. Starship prepared, systems online. All systems functional. Seek answers among the stars. Let's take off. And we will head off into the stars. Parker mentions that, yeah, you have to really assess the value of things in the moment, and then wish you had space for them later on. Yeah, I mean, that's very much the survival game mode. I see no borders from up here. Oh, sorry. So our planet has rings. That's nice to know. And we've got some asteroids floating around. Don't expect much in terms of, you know, astrophysics plausibility in this game. They do specifically say it's sort of a science fiction, science fantasy game. And so, yeah, there's another planet right there. Makes no sense, but yep, there it is. You know, there's the sun, there's the star. You know, you can kind of see the planet from up here. Not anything much in the way of water. I think it's a planet. Okay, we're in orbit. Let's test the Starship systems. Okay, I can do my boost. I've shot some things. You can shoot the asteroids. And you get, just like the mining laser, you get materials from the asteroids. So I got some gold, blew that one up, got some silver from that one. Some you can just blow straight up. Some are too big and you have to kind of blow them apart piece by piece. That's the pulse engine. The pulse engine is the zip mode of No Man's Sky. It's a little basic warp. The inside the solar system warp. So you can go places. Oh, I'm getting a message. Press X. Turn on the Starship communicator. Incoming transmission. Source 4925B. Please identify yourself. I'm. Identify yourself. You are not alone. Oh, that's good. No. Follow that. The broadcast ends as strangely as it began. The final piece of the signal appears to be a set of planetary coordinates. Input coordinate data. And it says, go over there to that planet. That planet over there I have never been to. It's undiscovered. I'm going to do a scan of it from orbit. It's a scalding planet. Junie says, how can you identify yourself if you've lost your memory? That's a good question. You know, that's a good, and that's a, see, in a video game, you can ask that question. You just kind of, you know, gotta have something or such. But in a role-playing game, you can. So you could have that, you know, who is this? And then the players can be like, that's a good question. Or they can make something up. This is the commander. Over. Everything's here is fine. Everything's fine. How are you? Yeah. Once again, I feel like I'm saying once again a lot, but I'll probably repeat myself several times over the games, but, you know, the power of the role-playing game, tabletop game, is that you can interact directly with the fiction and you can modify it in real time. You know, you can say things like, well, I never thought about how to do it, but yeah. I'm Dave. Dave's not here, man. No, I'm Dave, no, he's not here. And here's a good, little more mist-related anecdote. I was talking to Ryan Miller one time, and I asked him, well, how do people actually type things into a key? You know, when you're in there, the key animation, you know, you hold up the key and you're kind of waving your fingers at it, and like, well, how do you type things in? And he said, you know, we never really thought about that. We just kind of assumed that, you know, you get into it. For a video game, you don't really have to know. It's just like, you know, okay, you know, you're waving your hands, or, you know, you're doing the thing, and, you know, you use your interface. But from a role-playing game perspective, you can ask that question and you can decide. Like, oh, you know, maybe they have virtual keys, like, you know, you see in like cyberpunk films, or maybe it's like, you know, it has its own form of the old graffiti script on the old, you know, PDAs. You know, who knows? But okay, so we're going to this place, Kluntov Omega. I'm not going to say that incorrectly because then it may become obscene. But this is the procedurally generated name for that planet, which I can change. It's unmapped. No one's gone on it before. It's a scalding planet, which is just sort of a type of planet, which probably means it's pretty hot. And these are the materials that are common that can be harvested on that place. So with the pulse engine, like I said, it's sort of the zip mode. I kind of highlight the icon of where I want to go, and I start the pulse engine up, and you can see it takes me much faster. Sometimes when you're on pulsing, you'll see something like an anomaly or a object of interest, and you'll have to stop to go look at it. Sometimes things find you while you're pulsing. Okie doke. And now we're going down to orbit. By the way, if you're ever flying a spaceship, don't fly like I do. I fly like a maniac. I often just kind of run into things because I'm also not very coordinated. So here we go. Ah. So very quick descent. And you get your environmental warning. You can see the temperature is 59.9 Celsius out there, so it's hot. But we can see a couple things out there. And here we are on Kluntov Omega. Weather is parched, sentinels are intermittent. And you see that your shield in the lower right has automatically switched to a heat protection shield. Your hazard shield's very good that way. It adjusts to the hazard of the environment. But so we got a red Earth. Other people who have visited here, so there was probably settlements and other things we can find. So while you as a I as a player am the first people here, it being a navigated, it being an inhabited system, other species have been here, and there you'll find settlements and trade things and trade hubs and manufacturers and all kinds of stuff. But as a player, I'm the first player to set foot here. So let's take a quick look around. So it's got me in this targeting mode, which is trying to direct me to the place of that it's supposed to go. I think it's actually behind me, given that. It's over that way. There, okay. Oh, check it out. Dinosaurs. Check out these dinosaurs. Look at the heads, the frills. I'm gonna switch to a different mode here, but see. I'm gonna scan them. Actually, dinosaurs. This is kind of an anecdote with this game that you wouldn't know as a new player. Dinosaurs with that sort of standard diplo head sort of creature is actually relatively rare. There are players who keep databases of planets where they found the sort of Diplosaurus sort of people. Some people like doing that sort of thing. Here, let's scan a few things. I zoom in. There's something over there. It is a turtle. That is, well, that's not a turtle. It's something that looks vaguely like a turtle that's scooching along the ground. Can't scan it because our dinosaur buddies are in the way. Anyways, let's go find our place that we're supposed to be going. Now, obviously, this is the tutorial, and so it's just kind of directing me around, to make this, go here, use this control, that sort of thing. This is this section of the story of the game is very much on rails. Where you get the term being railroaded in role-playing games, which is when the GM says no, this is where you can go, and that's it. Railroading your characters is putting them on rails is considered bad form. For those of you who don't, who are GMs who aren't familiar with the game, it's essentially it's the idea if you want to tell a story, write a story. But if you're going to do a role-playing game, it's interactive. So, this is kind of cool looking. So, there's the thing I'm looking for. Are there somewhere? Oh, hi. Someone has been here before. Got a nice flag. They've left some garbage around because, we can't have nice things. And then there's this sector marker. It's a save point and also kind of gives you information about the area. So this area is called the Emoda, and it's that these names are also procedurally generated, and you can change them if you want. These waypoints up here. Waypoints aren't well supported in the game. There's lots of waypoints on the planet, but this will only show like the last 6 or so. So you don't end up renaming a lot of those, but when you rename something, you get a little reward for it too. So this is the thing that was actually sending the signal I was looking for. Broken technology. The sparking wires of the machine create a signal, tapping out its broadcast into the void. Whoever left the message is long gone. Decipher signal. Decoding 16, 16, 16. Notice pattern. Entry 4925C. Last known was B, now C. No fuel in. Failed to reach station. Hazard protection low. No choice but to underground. Deployed base computer. As well as the log entry, the signal contains plans for a base computer and a terrain manipulator. With any luck, the base computer will hold information whoever leaves these messages. Oh. There's a base computer. I need 30 units of chromatic metal, whatever that is. A terrain manipulator. Advanced terraforming device. Module overloads existing multi-tool systems, allowing the user to reshape regions as they wish. Okay. Still on rails a bit here. Wants us to make the terrain manipulator, so highlight the terrain manipulation mission in the log. Hey. Terrain manipulator is a multi-tool upgrade. Allows mining of valuable ores. That allows you to reshape the world, digging tunnels and creating new land masses. I'm all for that. Alright. Install the terrain manipulator. Okay. Terrain manipulator. I need carbon nanotube. It went away. Okay. So I need to craft dihydrogen jelly. I already have some dihydrogen. Become kind of a pack rat in this game. Like, oh, I could use that later. Craft carbon nanotools. I need 2 of them. I do not have enough carbon for 1, much less 2. So I need to go find plants and shoot them. That's condensed carbon. That's a useful material, but not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to take it while I have. Some certain materials will just show up on planets as sort of crystals that you can mine. I'm just gonna, often just sort of take them as I go. Where are all the plants? Oh, these look sort of plant-like. Okay. That looks like some sort of planty type thing. Let's scan it. Alright. And that's carbon. Here's another plant. Another type of plant. It's got flowers on it. It's dying. It's got a flaky coating. So it's much like a croissant, or different. Let's see here. We got a few of those, so let's pop. I have to admit, I just like the pop. Oh, there's an unidentified thing there. This little tree. I'm still sort of kind of working on ways that this sort of exploration might be interesting in a role-playing game. Because this is sort of, like if you were sitting around like, a table with a bunch of people like, well, okay, well, there's a plant. Well, let me scan that plant. Well, this plant is K. Pontelle. Like, oh, cool. Well, let me scan that plant. That sort of detailed, dive into exploration, might be interesting for an individual. In the, sense of someone who likes completing things or making lists, but it's not really interesting from a story perspective. And role-playing games are really about story. So, I don't know, someday I will crack that, that particular, conundrum of how to make something really sort of detail-oriented that's fun. Uh-oh, I'm running out of my heat protection. So I better charge that up. Oh. Is it here? Okay, I did recharge it. Okay, good. That would be bad to suddenly not be protected from the, 70 degrees Celsius heat. I can see that being awkward. Okay. Can we make nanotubes? 1, 2, and I can make the thing. Oh, hey. I put in the hydrogen jelly, lube it all up, take my nanotubes, and now I have it. And I can switch my tool options between now I have my mining laser and my terrain manipulator, which has several different modes. I can mine. I'm literally just blowing chunks out of the ground. I can add. I can flatten. And I can restore, which essentially says fix whatever changes you made there. Essentially to return it back to its procedurally generated pristine glory. You see it automatically highlights the parts that have been changed. It's going backwards. So it's sort of the, Terraformer's undo button. Over time, a lot of these changes will reset themselves anyways, because what's saved is sort of the procedurally generated seeds for the environment. Certain things get saved, certain things don't, but mostly what this gets used for here is for mining, because you can see your scanner is showing you that there's a buried technology module right there, and so I can dig for it, and there it is. Someone callously buried their technology just in the middle of the planet here. And so I got some salvage data units, which I can use to later on trade for blueprints for new technology. Okay, I got that. Did I done that? Okay, now it wants us to get some copper. Hey, so we need to find a copper deposit. That's a long ways away. I don't know if I walked that far. Cobalt. Let's see here. I guess that's how far I'm gonna have to go for copper. I'll highlight that so I can see it. And now I got myself a run. So yeah, this is definitely, while you can play this multiplayer, this is definitely that sort of solitary stranger feel. And there is a lot of, like Junie said, Stardew Valley feel of, gather resources, combine things, especially early on. As you develop more resources and put together more tools, you get to do more things. You go to more planets. You go to, you can build bases. That sort of thing. You can get involved in different story bits. You can get, into, starship battles with pirates. You can buy a freighter and command a fleet of frigates doing missions. There is the storyline of what's actually going on in this universe. The 16, 16, 16 messages you keep getting. That's a whole storyline. And there's something that you can get later called the Anomaly, which is sort of a multiplayer hub. It gives you access to a lot more tools and such, as well as multiplayer missions. And leads you to other things, other sorts of missions and such. Hey. Here's a copper deposit, just a big chunk of copper laying around. I'm going to use my terrain manipulator to suck it out. And this is one of the ways that you can get lots of materials at once. Usually metals, but not always. Oh, be careful. I knocked out the ground beneath me. And you can see that, you get some of the weird shapes here. Gravity doesn't quite work here in the ways you might expect. So, I can kind of blow up everything around something, and it just kind of hovers there in midair. That's kind of fun. the limitations of a game environment, a video game environment. Once again, with your role-playing game, you can adjust things to the reasons and ways that work that make sense to you. Okay. Oh, check this out. While digging my resource deposit here, I have dug into a cave. And there's all sorts of interesting things in here. This cave may or may not actually attach to the surface. It is, Junie, it is a really massive universe. And it does, like I said, it does have the downshot of it, that after a while, if you've been to a lot of places, you start seeing the same patterns over and over again, and you're like, oh, I've seen those stalactites on a different, on 5 or 6 other planets before, and that sort of thing. If you don't mind that as much, then and you'll see, go to a bunch of planets, and eventually you'll see things that look kind of the same of the creatures you found, and because there's only so much procedural generating you can do. Hey, dude, where's your head? But there are a lot of variations, and there are a lot of different things you can do. And I generally actually run with a mod. This game is mod friendly, that increases the amount of different options that a planet can generate, so it becomes even more diverse. There are underground biomes. There are several different types of planet biomes. There's underwater sections. You can go underwater. You can build bases underwater. You can build vehicles that you can use, including a submarine. And then there's a hovercraft that actually goes across the water. There are certain things you can only get underwater, for instance, or only get in caves. You can buy things and sell things and make money that way. I mean, there's just all kinds of things. And I see my hazard protection is almost out again. This is the survival aspect of it. And it didn't recharge very much. Now, one of the things that's I think, sort of obvious about this game is that, once you get the hang of it, you do see the repeating patterns. It's kind of, you generate things by repeated algorithms, you're going to see repeated patterns. Connecting this back to Myst, I've had discussions with people about the idea of, computer-generated ages, not just in terms of making game environments that people can run around in, but in terms of in the world, can a computer write a descriptive age book? Can we, create, hook up can we print pages to a linking book on an inkjet, or hook it up to a plotter, and got the dip pen, you got, or a 3D printer, you got your dip pen, and it dips in the ink and it writes out on the page and it flips the page over and all that sort of thing. And so, that might be one way to say, make copies of linking books, mass produce them. And the Garo Hefty, which are symbols of some sort, computers deal with symbols all the time. Can the computers, put symbols together? Can you build programs that help you build ages? And can you then, in theory, if you have a computer that understands the symbols and understands how the symbols go together and has a way of putting the symbols down on paper in a way that actually creates a descriptive book, can you then essentially have procedurally generated ages, in the sense that the computer puts a bunch of stuff together, writes it in the descriptive book, and boom, there you've got your age. Assuming that a computer or a machine can write a linking book, and that the symbols and such can be programmed into a computer in some way, then yeah, you should be able to. That then has implications for what sort of ages are made, because just like a procedurally created video game where you see the same elements being used over and over, and you see, it's like looking at a texture, a texture that's been patterned, been tiled on something big, and you can see it's like you see the line, that's where it repeats, and the same pattern over and over. Will you start seeing ages like that? Will you start seeing ages where, there's, rows and rows of similar mountains because, the computer has done the same thing over again? What are the effects on an age of a computer error? What if your nifty little program, that's making the age, putting together a Garo Hefty gets in an infinite loop? What happens when it keeps writing, mountain after mountain after mountain after mountain after mountain after mountain? What about off by one errors? It's like, oh, well, there should have been 3 mountains there, but now there are 2, and then there's a big space, and it gets filled with water, and up, there's all kinds of weird stuff. How many ages have, one particular type of mountain that looks the same over, on each age, because that's how they wrote it, and the computer wrote it over and over again. So, the idea of combining technology and the art in ways that we use technology, we can draw ideas from this environment, from this setting. And I think a lot of this applies to, in Minecraft, there's a mod called Mistcraft, which is very popular in Minecraft. And they do some procedurally generated environments where you actually, put some materials together into a linking book, and you put some glyphs on it, and it generates an area of Minecraft, a Minecraft world, whatever they're called. And so you can kind of see that there. Yeah, there are common elements that get smushed together. So, at first everything looks very, very different, but after a while you begin to start to see the patterns. So, that sort of thing depends on, once again, what you're wanting with your game. There are some interesting cosmological issues that your players could get involved with. Excuse me. There are some interesting cosmological things your players can get involved with about the age. When you, if you decide that your game wants to be about those things, what are ages like written by humans? Humans are, make technology. Humans are aware of computers. Humans want to automate everything. So why not? Why won't they try? Is it even possible? Well, your players. If you have a player who's a computer person, and is playing, someone somewhat computer knowledgeable as a character, is going to want to start making ages with computers. It's just going to happen. So, you start, as a GM, you have to start thinking about, does it make sense to me? And what sort of game does it create? And you decide if that's the sort of game you want to play or run. And then from there, we get back into the discussion. I know that thing here is saying that I should process the copper and chromatic metal, but I'm going to go off a little bit, and we're going to go wander off into space a bit more, so I can show you some other things of the game. Let's see if we can get up high enough here, and hopefully... Okay. There should be a space station here, but they're not showing it to me. Or am I not seeing it? No. I think it's that way, but they're not letting me highlight it because they're jerks. Yeah, they're not showing the icon. Oh, fine, I'll go back and play your game then. Aha. And like I said, once you get once I like No Man's Sky in of itself, and as it connects to Unwritten, because it's such a sandbox, because there are so many different things you can do. You know, I play a game where I have a frigate, and I have bunches of ships that run back and forth, and they do stuff for me, and they collect money, and they do events, and they bring me back curios from other planets and stuff like that. I have another game which I actually play with my lovely wife Ellery. Speak of the devil, here's my lovely wife Ellery, who seems
Hello,
to
everybody.
she seems to have food for me.
How much do you love me?
I love you quite a bit.
Yay!
Okay. Oh, my lovely wife just brought me like one of my favorite meals ever. So I would say someone find marry this woman, but I already have. So you're gonna have to go through me if you want to get to her. We can talk, but
There's a short negotiation.
in a short negotiation stance, you're gonna have to take a number. There'll be a review period. It's like adopting a kitten, but bigger, and she brings you food as opposed to you have feeding them all the time. So, now, here you can say hi.
Hey, everyone.
That's my lovely wife, Ellery. And if you're in the Miss community, you probably know her very well, relatively well, or have heard her name. She is, in fact, that Ellery. Okay, but yeah. So, let's see here. Anybody have any questions or comments? I talk a lot. That's the problem with me is I can we negotiate a meal share? That's a possibility. We'll talk. Everybody says hi, by the way. Okie doke. And it's gonna want me to make the chromatic. We'll just go with this, but yeah, anybody else have questions? I talk a lot, and I'll keep talking until someone tells me to shut up. I don't know if anybody's had any questions about the game, any questions about any of the things I've said about Unwritten, role-playing games in general, the universe, life, the universe, everything. Okay, let's make us some chromatic metal. Okie doke. We need to power our thing. Chromatic metal comes from copper is one of the places it comes from. And I need some 42 indeed. Is my meal from the restaurant in the universe? No, it's not. And unfortunately, I have not been able to actually investigate, to interview the source of my meal itself to see if it truly consented to be eaten. But that is sort of one of the shortcomings of human society today. It's sad, but for pad thai at the very least, I'm willing to deal with that that ethical conundrum. By the way, Islanders. They play more games like this. How does it change how I GM Unwritten? Junie asks. I'm assuming you mean more games like No Man's Sky. As someone who is sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? As someone who is sort of a reflexive GM in the sense that I'm always thinking about GMing things and how I would do this and how I would do that. I'm looking for a lot of ideas all the time. Just like, oh, that's kind of cool. It would be cool to see someone else and how they would react to that. Hey, Landris Thomas. Landris is from our game, of course, and very talented in making all sorts of cool stuff. More to be shown on that at a later time. But did I get everything out of this? But so I mean, I like to look for things that I have done that I'd like to see other people do, or I'd like to see how other people react. Um, and that's the sort of situation um, that I like to put players into. Um, and I try to sometimes, so I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, I like the exploration. I like finding new places. Ellery, we were actually talking about the game that Ellery and I played together. We just mostly hit new planets. We look around, we see if there's some cool stuff. We, see it, jet to another system and see if there's more cool stuff there. Um, and I kind of think, how can I, have a game that's just like that? Which is sort of, that's one of those sort of games where you constantly need new content, which is the conundrum of the exploration game. The procedural um, method is one way to handle that, but as obvious as it is obvious, it hasn't been really cracked very well. Oh, yeah, ask V about Fortune First RPG. Oh God, that's a long discussion. We're only going to be on here for about 15 more minutes. I don't know if we have time for that. But, um, like, I actually started thinking about, as I was playing this, I started thinking about this as an unwritten game. And not just in terms of how I would use mechanics, but how I would integrate this experience into a game of Unwritten that is a game that exists in the Disney universe. And there are a couple ways, I mean, there's obviously the feeling of going from planet to planet, which is like going from age to age. But I was also thinking, the fact that each planet is, each age is a universe. It's not just this planet. It's not just this, this plateau or this island or such. Um, and so, it's want me to make a base computer. Um, um, what would it be like to go, for an unwritten game to go into an age and discover that there's a technological civilization there that has interplanetary, faster than light, interplanetary, intergalactic travel. So, like, I can have, you have to be somewhere. I want to know how to manage to make a space station. Well, first you got to get up there. Tora that said, I still want to know how D managed to make a space station. Missed 5. Well, I mean, they can obviously make the stuff. They just have to get it up there, and they probably got it up there in the way you might expect. They didn't need at some point probably developed rocketry, or some sort of space travel. They don't use it very much, obviously. But they obviously have the technology to have figured something out like that. They have experience with, dealing with all sorts of environments. And especially in a place like that where it looks like it was, like Toldelmer, which, looks like it's written as an observatory age, they probably, wrote things into the age that they thought would be useful. Easy to gain materials that they would need for the rocketry age. A complex set of system of astrophysics, or planetary system, so that it's actually it's something that they want to observe. With it, at one point, doesn't Atris write some test ages in one of the books to just to essentially experiment with planetary mechanics? And there's one where he's on, if I remember correctly, he just, writes the age such that it's going, the planets, the moon or whatever is going to collide into the planet. And he wants to see what happens. Yeah, Tora, this is exactly right. This played a good Unwritten campaign itself. How the Denis discovered rocket science, or that one space-obsessed Denis. I had a sort of alternate Denis version thing I had once where there was actually a Denis city on the moon. Yeah, and of course the tricky thing about the Denis linking rule, the Denis linking technologies, you have to be there in order to write a linking book. But once you get there, you can write a linking book, and then you have lots more um, options for getting materials in, just grabbing people and having them ferry materials in. You know, once you get there and you get the linking book back to you, travel's really easy. So if a linking book could be written by machine, you could have, say, the Curiosity rover go up to Mars with a linking book, um, and in some sort of launch device, and it writes a linking book to Mars, packages it up in the launch device, sends it back to Earth, or, it, so, and then that linking book comes back to Earth, gets dropped in the water. They find the whole 9 yards. Boom! You now have access to Mars or the Moon or wherever. It's just that first initial amount of energy getting there. And for a lot of the Denise purposes, that's not that useful to put that energy towards it. Because, if there's something on Mars that they want, they could probably just, write an age that had it right there anyways, and that's easier. That's the conundrum of the Denise, that um, writing made things so easy that they could just write the books. And so thus they had the technology. Uh-oh, it's getting hot out. I will run back to my ship before I die. Uh-oh. Um, yeah, the actual age of Martians, some cave in New Mexico. Um, and I think there's actually like a Doctor Who episode that's something like that. But yeah, you know, how about there is some here's an idea for a story that comes from something like this is um a Denis probe returns to Earth with a linking book from one of the planets at some point in the past in the great old history, some obsessed Denis made it to the surface and sent a mechanism off to create a linking book for it on one of the other planets. And now it happened right after the fall. It was a long-term project. Insert reason here. Now we have a linking book to Mars or Titan or whatever. Maybe there is an entire maybe there's a settlement of Denis on Titan. Yeah, the refuse from the fall left for the outer worlds. Absolutely, Tora. It's almost time, but the last thing I kind of want to think about is the other idea I had that specifically for an unwritten game from No Man's Sky is the whole once again with the whole hey I what would be like for an explorer to find an age where there is where there is active faster than light travel and active space travel and that sort of thing and specifically the sign that you find here is the fact that and this comes apparent is that you look at this and obviously because of the procedural nature, like I said, you have the sort of reuse of assets and the repetition and finding the patterns over and over again. And so I thought, what if there's a reason for that? And what if there's a reason? The reason for that is actually the fact that it's part of the age. That the writer of the age wrote in these patterns, whether it be like a computer procedural thing or just an experiment by a particularly eccentric writer who's writing in these patterns to see what sort of environments can be generated with these combinations of items. You know, could it be like a Denis Guild of Writers sort of you know catalog, sort of like here's here's this section of Garo Hevti, and we combine them in this all these different ways, you know, and just these Garo Hepties or these sets of features only are the only ones available, and you know and how does with those constraints, how does the sort of randomness of connecting to an age on the tree of great possibilities actually create all these different patterns? I mean, that's getting something very abstract. Um, and I tend to like to get into the philosophical and abstract stuff about like the art and age and stuff like that. But so that was one of my ideas. Is like you know, this place is sort of repetitive once you get into it, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is in the descriptive book, and that's something that the players would have to discover. Um, the tricky things is, of course, is leading to them to that without telling them that, and then making that factor important. You know, like okay, you have this cool idea for why this incredibly apparently diverse universe has these simple patterns in it, and you know what do we care? You know, the Denis scientist might be like, oh, that's very interesting, but player characters are adventurers. They're out doing things and being awesome. So why is that important? I think that's a tricky thing in a lot of games. Is you might have a cool idea, and you may spend a lot of time figuring out, well, okay, there's this age, and there's this thing here, and these things, I wanted floaty rocks, and the floaty rocks work this way, and then well, that means that this thing you could do this, and you could do that, and there needs to be more to your game than check out all the cool stuff I made up. Um, and so, I think that's a trap a GM can fall into because it is very easy, for a GM. The GM is somebody who likes to make worlds. I mean, that's you're running a game, you're making a world, and so you come up with all these ideas, and you want to show people, and so there's it's like okay, this session is like oh well now you're finding the secrets out, and so let me give you the monologue where I dump all my details out, and some players love that, most players don't, um, because their characters don't care as much, or it doesn't mean much for their characters' lives. Um, Mist fans might be in general more tolerant of it because they like figuring out details. See the whole Landris's age session where they were just looking at things and figuring things out, and well, what happens when I do this, and what happens when I do that. Um, so Mist fans are very used to going to find go looking through details and seeing what happens. The old oh, let's pull this lever. What did that do? I don't know. Pull the other lever, see what happens. Yeah. Um, but you can't count on that, and that with unless you have a very specific set of players and GM, that gets boring, both for players and GM. Um, so yeah, um, it's not just coming up with cool ideas, but coming up with ways the cool ideas create. What is it? Sorry. Oh, overflying plants. There's a thing in No Man's Sky where there are some planets that have essentially sandworms, like from Doom. Doesn't have to be a desert, but suddenly the Earth will shake, and then a worm will come roaring out of the ground and jump across the sky and then move on. And it's disturbing. Kind of cool too. The first time it happens, you're just like, holy crap! The spice must flow. Yes. Also, big fan of Dune. So, start thinking about, if Arrakis was an age, What would the Denis? What would the Denis have done with the spice melange? The Guild of Sleepers has awakened. Okay, well, it's about time. And my throat's getting a little sore, and I have this awesome set of pad thai here that I need to eat. It's calling my name. Veronica, eat food. You love food. Again's age would have been a lot trippier with the spice melange, yeah. I mean, it's the difference between, like the new Dune movie and then the old Dune movie. I mean, there's obviously some LSD dropped in the old Dune movie. But anyways, so yeah, once again, thanks for coming with me on this sort of little side tour. Maybe I'll do some more No Man's Sky another time. Um, maybe, I'll do less talking and more just game playing if people like that sort of thing. But these sessions are mostly for using it as ideas for Unwritten. I don't know if people want more just sort of, like, hey, we're going to do cool stuff. Um, And oh yeah, definitely, as Junie Girl has said, thanks to Ellery for spoiling me and making sure I feel the play. And of course, you know, you know, Inkworks is far from a one-person thing. Um, Ellery and I are a long-term team, and we're both work on Inkworks, and Unwritten wouldn't exist without her help. Um, and so, make sure that you understand that, Unwritten exists is part her and part me. Yeah, 20 years. We've been together 20 years. Um, the next 20 years are going to be kind of weird for lots of different reasons. Some of it have to do with our marriage, and some that don't. All right. So if you like what we're doing here, go ahead and find us on the Patreon, and send us money. Um, Essentially, that's what it's for. Is the more patrons we have, and the higher they do, the more things we can do. Um, and the more reliably that we can provide some sort of content, whether it be these streams or written content or whatever the other things that we can come up with. Um, you know, um, Also, obviously, buy Cyan games. The more money Cyan gets, the more of their games get sold, the more cool stuff we get from them, and you know, have a great week. We will not be having the walkthrough stuff on the 28th, just as a reminder. Um, but the week after that, that Tuesday, which I should look at, is the 5th. I'm pretty sure we'll be having the stream on that day, and we will start Exile. Um, and on the 2nd, we will be having the Strange Seeds game, and I'll be doing that from uh, somewhere other than my home base here. Um, but we will be having that game, and we'll see, Laundress get haunted by more murder rocks. Um, as pretty much it's pretty much kind of the point of the whole game is that we destroy Laundress's mental state with things like murder rocks and um, you know geysers full of stinging jellyfish and other things that can really worry him. All right, Shara, and I will talk to you guys later.